Everybody to today's class. Today we're going to have a quick class on mistakes. These are all mistakes that my students have made in the last couple, should have said at the end of every class, and that's why I have literally millions of mistakes written down and saved on my hard drive that I can use for these classes. So hi Maria, how are you doing? So we're going to look at number one first of all. I could see from their faces that they had argued. Now it was a very young student who said this, and I'm already very happy with her because she realised that she needed a past perfect tense. Now unfortunately she used the simple tense and the continuous tense would sound better. But I think she did really well anyway. I could see past tense here from their faces that they had been arguing. That would sound better than had argued. Had been arguing. And really, why does the continuous sound better than the simple form, had been arguing? Why does it sound better than had argued? Why does it sound more natural? Well, it's because argue usually takes place over a long period of time. Okay, that's the main reason. Argue has duration, and with these verbs that really emphasize duration, you really ought to use present perfect continuous and past perfect continuous when you get the opportunity. So a verb like wait, it's really clearly very often referring to duration. Yeah, you usually say how long you have been waiting, and this is why a verb like wait will very rarely be have waited, and it will usually be have been waiting. We have been waiting for an hour. We have been waiting for 2 hours. And I could see from their faces that they had been waiting for 3 hours. Yeah, and it's because wait is duration. Argue is also a very dynamic verb that shows duration. So I would just have a list of verbs in my head if I were you. That are usually stative verbs like know, understand. They're very rarely in continuous tense, if never in fact for some of these stative verbs in continuous tense. So we always say I have known, I have believed, I have understood, and not I have been knowing, have been believing, have been understanding. Hello? Yes. Their faces that they had had an argument. You still need the past perfect tense. So you'd still need to say had an argument. Okay, that they had an argument. So that's possible. That's an excellent question. And I'm sorry if there was a problem there with the connection. I have no idea why, but it seems to be back on again now. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I never saw my father so angry. May be correct, but it's not what we'd usually say. Usually we would use one of the two perfect tenses for this never. And I think with never, sure, it can be used in present simple, but a lot of the time you're talking about never in your whole life. And if that's what you mean, in your whole life, it's much better to say, I have never seen my father so angry. Okay, I have never seen my father so angry. Now, it's not the only tense we can use. If you're telling a story and you say that this happened, and then you insulted your dad and you had never seen him so angry before that. So it could be have never seen, or it could be had never seen as well. It could be past perfect. If you're in the middle of a narrative, generally speaking, if you're telling that narrative in past tenses, that's when you'd say had never seen. When you're in the middle of telling a story and you're already in past tense, that's usually when you see past perfect. Past perfect is incredibly rare. It's wrong to think that you need to use it all the time or to try to show off and use it as many times as possible. That wouldn't be correct. Use it rarely, use it sparingly, but it is a tense, and so it's worth knowing about, and it will improve your storytelling for sure. Okay, the next one is a prepositional mistake. In my age, money is not important. And again, it was a very young student who made this mistake, and he'd done really well for the rest of the class. He's a very good student. And so the only problem here is the in. When you're talking about ages, you really are talking about moments in your life. And so you're talking about moments in time. And with these moments in time, we usually use at plus time, yeah? At 3 o'clock, at 5 o'clock. With time, we do say, that ought to be a capital if it's starting the sentence, at my age. And of course, we do say at at 21, you finish university. At retire, something like that. Okay, number 4 is a good example of what will leave you with mistakes in your speech, whereas following the rules of parallel structure will make your speech sound a lot more beautiful. So do have a look at my videos on parallel structure if you want to improve how you sound, how you use rhetoric, how persuasive you are. So look at number 4. He started talking rationally, not angry. Now it's these two words that I want you to focus on, because when we say something like it was X, not Y, we're making a comparison between two things. And when we make comparisons between two things, the two things must be comparable. They must be similar to each other so that you can compare them, at least a little bit similar. And the idea here is that you can compare nouns with nouns, you can compare adjectives with adjectives, but you can't compare nouns with adjectives, or adjectives with adverbs, or prepositions with conjunctions, because they're totally different parts of speech. And so Fida is absolutely right. You mustn't say angry. Rationally is an adverb, so we need an adverb here, angrily. And then we're comparing an adverb with an adverb. Okay? And of course we need an adverb because we're describing how he was talking, how he started talking. So parallel structure is certainly required, and I really recommend to everybody that they think a lot about parallel structure. It's one of my favourite topics. If you think a lot about parallel structure, you will improve the way that you speak and the way that you write. So you improve both of them at the same time. But think about how to get things in a nice way to compare them, because that's what parallel structure is all about. It's making good comparisons, persuasive comparisons, and it's very often about repetition. Repeating similar elements in 2s and 3s seems to be what lies behind parallel structure. So, I mean, we could change this, by the way. We don't have to have adverb and adverb. We could say he started talking in a rational way, not an angry way. And then you've got in a rational way, determiner, adjective, noun, not a angry way, determiner, adjective, noun. Hello? Hello, sorry about that. I'm not sure what's going on with my internet connection today. Dodgy. So she wants to be more successful as she is. This was she's a French lady, and she made a mistake here, and she told me it's because in German they will use this preposition instead of than when they're making comparisons, but the preposition that's required in English is than. Yeah, to be more successful, to be more X than Y. Okay. So she wants them to be more successful than she is. Okay, number 6, before you become 50. This is just perhaps not the best collocation. Everybody will still understand that sentence or that subordinate clause. Everyone will still understand it, but it's not the best verb to use with an age, become 50. It sounds a little bit off to me. Maybe some people will say that, but it's not what I would say. I would say turn, before you turn 50. No phrasal verb here, just turn, before you turn 50, or maybe before you reach 50. Both of those verbs collocate very nicely with ages. To reach an age and to turn 10, to turn 15. Okay, yeah, turn and reach, exactly. Number 7, I wouldn't want that too. Now, this is a problem with this word here, too. You need to use to in positive sentences. So I would want that too is correct, but I wouldn't want that either in negative sentences. Okay, I wouldn't want that either. So get rid of the to and replace it with the either. Okay, to is only for positive sentences. Okay, number 8, he recommended Holden to delete the file. In my opinion, this is wrong, although I have found this structure in the dictionaries. However, I guarantee it that you will very rarely hear that in that way. And I mean recommend someone to do something. I've found it in Oxford. In my opinion, it's an archaic form which very few people use nowadays. You know, he recommended us to visit something. I don't think most people would say that, but you make your own conclusions. You speak to native speakers and see what they say, or you can go to ngram. Hello. Sorry about all the problems that we're having today with things, unfortunately. So he recommended that Holden delete someone do something. In my opinion, that's a modern way of using this particular verb. Recommend someone to do something sounds very jarring to my ear. It doesn't sound good at all. However, you will find that form in some dictionaries, and it's an old form. It's an out-of-date form, in my opinion. Okay, number 9, you don't hold your word. This is vocabulary. It should be keep your word. You don't keep your word. You don't keep your promises. We say keep your word or keep your promise. Okay, number 10, they raised up some important points. Now this is almost correct, and if you just get rid of the preposition up, it is correct. They raised some important points. But another good phrasal verb that you could use instead of raised is they brought up some important points. So bring something up. It can mean to bring up a child, yep, as in look after the child, raise the child, but it can also mean to mention, just like to raise an issue, to bring up an issue, to bring up a point. So to mention, it's also bring something up. So you can say they raised some important points or they brought up some important points. Both are correct. Now, if anybody has any questions, now's the time to ask while the connection's still working. It might disappear again. And I'm sorry about that. I have no idea why. My phone doesn't usually do that. So if there are no more questions, thanks everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this channel. And I hope to see you all soon.